Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditative practice that enters a space of mindfulness through the act of drawing. Heading into the holiday season, this week, going into Thanksgiving, it'd be good to do an exercise on being present and opening up some space for gratitude for what's there, what we engage, the different ways we can interact with the world through our bodies, through a pen or pencil, through paper, and start from an old exercise we may all be familiar with as kids by splaying out the fingers, making that turkey shape, and then transitioning it to some representation of gratitude, of presence, and seeing where that might take us in the drawing. I'm going to use pencils for probably all of this work. You can use pen or pencil, doesn't matter. Go ahead and gather what you'd like to draw with, and we'll see how it goes. That's part of the practice, is being attentive and aware of what you're working with and how you work with that to mark on the page. Paper, something larger if you have it, but if it's small, no worries, we'll find a way through. So gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. Everyone probably has seen or remembers the turkey thing. Kids put their hand down and trace around it, add some feathers. I don't know if we'll go quite that far, but you're welcome to engage it however you like. But I thought it would be maybe a fun place to start, using our hand as a guide for the drawing, and that tracing as a space of attention, and then bring it into that condition of mindfulness and thankfulness, gratitude, by slowly transitioning the relationship of our hands between that class representation of thankfulness and the representation of the turkey splayed out there. I think I'll use pen, pencil, back and forth, see how things start to grow in complexity on the page. No warm-up for this. I think we can all figure it out and just go right in. If you happen to have a piece of paper that's smaller than your hand, you can always just leave it off a little bit like that, or go off the edge. More, we're just getting some contours and kind of gradually transitioning from one state to another and seeing what that puts onto the paper. So we'll start with this pencil and see how that goes. Playing around a little bit with the paper there, finding a position for the hand, maybe very dramatically splayed out, or just loosely relaxed. We'll go with a fairly open condition. And as we get into and familiar with it, finding your way of tracing around, letting the pen or pencil move along the outer edges, depending on what you're using to draw, and how it moves around corners, the diameter. It'll start to impart its own condition onto the page. Finding in this beginning a pace of motion that allows you to feel the movement in the subject hand on the paper, and feel that same movement and reaction in the active hand with the pencil. Not too fast, not too slow, making a clean, continuous contour if you can. And we should have some light outline. Pencil may be a little light to start with. If it becomes a bit light, we could enhance it, and we'll come back around to that. But I think as part of this bringing together, clasping of the hands, we'll continue and try it on the other side. If that's your offhand or less precise hand, use everything you have with you as a guide, moving along the surface. Maybe hold a little closer and seeing if you can find balance between the two sides by performing a similar action, just shifted over in context, can change quite a lot. Starting that awareness of what we have here in the present, perhaps in a larger scale as well, Just two handprints beginning to interact on the paper. After I have a couple of handprints, I think we'll switch back and forth to keep both sides of the mind and both sides of the body engaged. And just think of transitioning between two states. They could be any states. I'm going to work towards a vertical position, but one movement at a time. So maybe just relaxing the fingers a little bit and beginning again. And this time as we start, we can bring our attention deeper into the space of our body by taking a breath in and tracking with the exhalation. Perhaps even closing the eyes and really bringing the attention to the movement of the pen or pencil along the edge and contours of our hand. Noticing when a new breath comes to the foreground, working through the exhalation as a guide for motion. Bringing the eyes in or out as you feel comfortable, moving evenly around those contours, bringing some attention to breathing evenly in and evenly out. And that may be the bigger challenge, is having attention both present to the motion, present to the breath, simultaneous. And that's where we'll do our work for a little while. Breathing in and starting with the exhalation. When it finishes, noticing, breathing in again, moving or pausing up to you, and on the exhalation, re-engaging the motion attention. A little back and forth between mind on the breath and mind on the act of drawing, slowly bringing them back into one shared mind. We can do a couple more and then maybe we'll take some time to read into that space. So just another gradual transition of the position of the hand. This time bringing attention with the breath to the pressure of the pen or pencil. Can we make that mark come out more bold as in time we move around this space? Is there a difference in how we engage the page on the inhalation or the exhalation? As the hand lifts from the paper, or maybe in positions that are not pressed so neatly flat, your pen or pencil can follow different contours, extending them, changing them a little bit, gradually morphing that outer profile into something new. And as we oscillate between left and right, and gradually change position, what do you notice in the feeling of the hand, the feeling of moving, that pen or pencil with a different speed, a different dexterity, gradually transitioning towards something and you can continue to bring those two moments together in a class, meditation, or just let them move into their own positions on the page there, bringing motion present, both visible and potentially a bit hidden in the overlaps and the complexities. And if you have more positions to do, feel free to keep following them, tracking around, or if you've got a nice collection going there, taking it in with the eyes, perhaps coming back with the same tool or something new and finding edges for enhancement. I see sequences of motion, the similar contour repeated through the space, of rereading and retracking that movement, enhancing that time and motion. It could be any curves, beginning to track them along, see what comes from that time spent. Sequence and seriality, bringing change, a little adaptation to new conditions. Forming new shapes in the spaces between moments. And in the messier spots, the vast overlaps, the dense clouds and collections, you might find more of those new conditions crossing from one place to another. Just drawing through what we've established here on the page. The two sides loosely symmetrical, but as different as our experience in drawing, from right over left or left over right. Perhaps finding some areas to bring a little bit of shading or tone. If you're working with a pen, you can outline, enhance in between figures. Working with a pencil, shade some graphite onto the page. And as we do this, another opportunity to bring our attention to the act of drawing, to the posture, holding that pen or pencil up, as it's easy for it to dip down with the hand to rub across the marks from before, perhaps making something interesting, perhaps just smudging on the page. And bringing awareness to that space. How are you holding your hand and the pen or pencil? How are they positioned to your body, to the paper? Is it comfortable? Maybe awkward? Is the whole arm engaged in the action, or just little flicks of the fingers or wrist? And just observe. Observe that place you're in terms of how you draw. If you have some experience or some training or teaching, things from before may come into the mind. Hold the pen or pencil this way, hold the arm or hand this way. You may lean into those as a practice of technique, or let them pass. If it makes the mark, it changes the page, and allows expression and action to merge, that's all right. Techniques are valuable in building consistency and accuracy in expressing our ideas, but someone found them by exploring, and we may need a little of that too. Finding new shapes or conditions, finding new relationships between us and the thing we're used to holding so much every day, a pencil, maybe a pen, to write, to draw, to make some marks out in the world. And if your page has some similar density to mine, 4 or 5 actions from each side, there should be plenty of intermingling spaces, plenty of chances for looking between the moments, enhancing the edges. And why don't we take a few minutes here in the middle of the exercise to just explore, get a space of quiet with the drawing, see what you might find, and really take on some meditation on exploration. Wander around and play. Observing whether the way you engage with that pen or pencil is part of comfort or discomfort, holding the arm up, maintaining that connection to the paper. Can work the shoulder, work the wrist, can bring a little discomfort, which eases over time with practice. And paying attention to where the hand, the fingers, the wrist, or the shoulder are really engaged in this action. To find new spaces between the overlaps, bring them to the foreground, or let them fade out into the back with a little bit of shading. Each in-between space, developing new relationships as we merge, overlay, connect. What is present on the page? And then the final segment, as you draw, as you make marks and actions, as you let your movement and your breath unfold into some emergent figure, condition on the paper. You bring into mind the time of the season, the taking a step back, what we call holidays, slowing down of things in the world, maybe also a compressing and speeding up, depending on what you do, but a shared time As winter approaches, as cold may creep in, to come together, to have a few intentional moments of gratitude, to perhaps enjoy company of family, friends, to breathe or draw through the stresses of travel, of preparing and entertaining, to let some of that flow out with the practice you've established, knowing that it's okay and to be grateful for time you can take for yourself to make sure you're in the best place you can be, to bring your best self to any situation that may come up. This winding down of a measure, the year, whatever that is, opening opportunity for reflection. And knowing that that comes with what you're doing now, providing a little time, a little space, perhaps a little routine and regularity to explore, to play, to bring attention to where you are, what you are doing, how you are doing it, and step back a little from why or what for. Just being there, present in the motion of the hand, present in the depositing of graphite or ink with the paper, observing the small details. We're getting lost in the overall time and space of an action. And even as we draw, whether this has intention to the figures, the thing on the page, or it's just a place of play and finding, whatever it may be for you, coming to a point where whatever we're working on in the local context, drawing a curve, shading a region, expressing a line, we can be okay with taking a moment, letting the pen or pencil rest, maybe bringing some attention to the fingers, maybe just moving the pen or pencil back and forth to feel it, its weight, its difference, our reaction to it, the immediate going to a position of drawing or the awkwardness of the other hand. And in that same spirit, bring some gratitude and awareness for all this different instrumentation that allows for variety of expression, for finding our way of working, for discovering new motions, new outcomes. And then as you re-engage for a few minutes in the drawing, holding that thought of gratitude for the things you have there, pen, pencil, paper, a hand that can move them along, a space to hold all those things and bring them together. in an act of playful creativity, in an act of attention and awareness. A small drop in the bucket of the day that may ripple out how we approach other things, how we bring our attention to our current situations. We make decisions with observation, with awareness, with an idea towards presence. Just takes a little bit of time to breathe into the situation, to find what it is, and let it open and unfold. And with the many regions there on the page in the last couple of minutes, can we really begin to unfold them into something new, adding repetitions, adding connections, just drawing into that space with an openness to play, to enhance the contours, to extend overlaps, and see where we can have a little fun at the end with that openness and sensation of presence, of gratitude. And maybe you have some time to continue that play of mark in space, contour and connection, of merging motion from moments into figures, into movement. And maybe it's time to just bring the hand to a rest, make the last mark or two. Take a deep breath to bring closure. Be okay with the stopping of the thing. To bring the hands together, to give them a little bit of space to re-engage. Take one final large breath. Roll back into a standing or sitting posture and let it out. And become present again in your space. Well, after giving that a little bit more time for myself for fun to keep the pencil moving and find new landscapes, new territories in that compressed action across the page, the only thing left to say is have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Draw well. Thank you.